Hello, it's Technology Central here, and welcome to the third tutorial in our series on how to use Google Sheets. In this tutorial, we're going to show you how to create graphs and charts in Google Sheets. We're going to show you how to insert a line graph, a bar graph, and a pie chart. We're then going to show you how to change the axis labels, title, and legends. And then we're going to show you how to change the style and layout of your charts. Let's begin by creating our line graph. To create our graph, we're going to need some data. I've created some dummy data here. To begin, we're going to select all of the data, including the headings. Then come to Insert and click Chart. Google Sheets has automatically chosen a line graph for us here, so we do not need to change the chart type. We can resize our chart by clicking and dragging these blue boxes on the edges of the chart. Click and drag in some blank white space to move the chart around within your spreadsheet. We've now created our line graph. We're going to do the same thing again now, but to create our bar chart. Again, we're going to select the data, come to Insert, and then click Chart. Again, Google Sheets has created a line chart for us. However, we want to change this to a bar graph. When we create our chart, the chart editor also appears. Under the Setup tab, we have the option for chart type. Click this drop down to see all of the different chart types. The chart types appear in several different sections. This first section are the different types of chart Google Sheets recommends based on the data you've given it. We want a bar graph, so we can choose that from here. The other sections are categorized by different types of chart. We have line graph, area charts, column graphs, bar graphs, pie charts, scatter graphs, and then a series of others. We're going to choose this column graph. And now we've inserted our bar graph. And finally, we're going to insert a pie chart. Again, we're going to select our data, come to Insert, Chart, and we're going to then choose the chart type to be a pie chart. Finally, resize and move to position. And we've now got our pie chart. Now we have our charts, we need to make some changes to them. I'm going to come back to our line graph. Here I want to change the title and axis labels. To do that, we're going to select our chart, right click, and come to Chart and Axis Titles. Click Chart Title, and we'll see the chart editor has appeared again. Under Chart and Axis Titles, come to the title text. I'm going to change this to My Line Graph. You can select the font here. For example, we can choose wide. You can automatically set the size of the title, or you can choose a size here. You can make it bold italic. You can move it to the center if you choose. And you can choose the color. For example, I'm going to make it blue. Now we've formatted our chart title, we might also want to format these axis labels. To do that, under Chart and Axis Titles, select the axis you want to edit. We're going to start by editing the horizontal axis title, so select it. We can change the title text by modifying it here. For example, I'm going to set it to my x-axis. We can change the font, size, alignment, and color, just like we could before. Finally, for our line chart, we might want to change the styling of our axis labels. That's the data values that appear along the sides of your chart. To do that, come and choose the axis you want to change. We're going to change the horizontal axis, so select that menu in the chart editor. Again, you can change the font, size, make the labels bold or italic, and change their color. You can also choose to make your graph backwards by reversing the axis order, like so. You can trim your axis to be over a smaller range. For example, I may want my graph to start at 2 and end at 8, and we can cut out parts of our data. You could also change the scale of your axis or display your data on a logarithmic scale by choosing the logarithmic scale option here. You can also make your labels appear at an angle, like so. And you can also change the formatting of the numbers. For example, I could display ours as a currency or percentage, like so. If you leave this as from source data, it will display the values in the same formatting as you have in your original data. If you wanted to change the vertical axis, the same options are available under the vertical axis section. Now let's have a look at our bar graph. What we want to change on this one is the background styling. Again, select our chart, right click, and we're going to come to Chart Style. And it's going to open the chart editor under the Chart Style section. We can change our background color here. For example, I could make it this horrible green color. You can change the default font for your whole chart. For example, I can make all of our text this wide font. And I can choose the chart's border colors. For example, I can make it this darker black that you can see around the edge of our chart. I'm going to reset this back to how it was before. We might also want to change these grid lines. To do that, come down to Grid Lines and Ticks. We're going to change the grid lines for the vertical axis. So select Vertical Axis. You have options here to add more grid lines by choosing the number of minor grid lines that you want, and changing how often you insert one of these major grid lines. I'm going to put this back to none. You can also choose to disable the major grid lines entirely, like so. You can also include tick marks along each axis by ticking to choose the major and the minor tick marks. Again, you can change the line thickness and colors as you choose. Finally, we're going to look at our pie chart. Our pie chart has a legend associated with it. By default, this is currently pointing and labeling each of the sections in our chart, but we might want to change that. To do that, we can right-click, come down to Legend, and now we can choose from a series of options. The first is the position. Currently it's Auto, which has these labeling each of these sections in our pie chart. We can move that to say be on the right, and now we can see that the legend has been displayed on the right hand side. We can change the font, the size, and the text color, as well as making the text bold and italic in the same way as we have previously. Now that we have changed the axis labels and titles and legends for our charts, let's look at changing the styling of the actual chart. We'll start with our pie chart. In the chart editor, come to Pie Chart. For our pie chart, we have an option of making it appear like a donut. We can choose to insert a hole that is 25, 50 or 75% of the diameter of the circle. So I could say choose a 25% one, and I'll insert this hole in the center. You can also insert a border color that'll go between each of the segments in our chart. For example, this black color. We can have a label on each slice, which can be the value, the percentage, the actual label that comes from the legend, or the value and percentage. I'm going to select percentage, and we can see we've inserted the percentages on the different segments in our chart. If the segment is too small to display the percentage, it won't be shown. We can also customize each of these slices individually. To do that, come to Pie Slice. select the slice that you want to look at. For example, I'm going to select banana. Currently, it's chosen a red colour for our bananas. I'd rather this be yellow to be the same colour as the fruit. So you can select the colour and pick yellow. We can see that that has changed in our chart. You can also move a section out of the chart using this distance from center option. I'm going to say make it 25%, and we can see that we've moved this segment out from the center of the chart. You can do this for any of the segments by selecting them individually. Now let's look at this formatting option for our bar graph. Again, right-click on the chart and come to Chart Style. If we now come to the Series tab in the chart editor, we'll see that we can choose this series, which is the set of data that corresponds to Y. We can choose the color and whether to have the axis displayed on the left or the right-hand side. We can add a trend line, like so. Choose the trend line options and color. You can add data labels to display the values within each of the bars, or you can add error bars as so. Finally, let's look at how we can change this styling on our line chart. Again, right-click on it and come to Series, Y. If we had multiple series, or so multiple lines, they would all appear here. Again, we can change the color, the line style, the position of the axis, line thicknesses, the size of each point, so if we say want a dot at each of the points in our data, and the point shape by choosing from these options here. Again, we can add error bars, data labels, and trend lines in the same way as before. Finally, for this tutorial, we're going to look at a more complex line graph. In this example, we've got two sets of data to be plotted on our y-axis. Select the whole chart, come to Insert, and click Chart. We're going to choose Line, and we now have our line chart with the two different series displayed on it. If we come to Customize in the chart editor and come to Series, we can either have these settings apply to all of the series, or we can customize the colors and stylings for each series individually by selecting them from this drop-down menu. That's all we wanted to show you in this tutorial. I hope you found it useful. If you have, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Also check out the other tutorials on how to use Google Sheets on our channel. But for now, thanks for watching and goodbye.